I appreciate people being here today. You're going to hear some different advice from what affects me to what affects a business owner like Martin and maybe anyone else who jumps in. These are clearly unprecedented times, and I want to start out with people who know me. Let's see, hold on a second. I'm bringing in Martin Lawrence because he's having difficulty getting on here. 2 seconds, sorry about this. The systems, by the way, are overloaded, so hold on a second. Okay, there we go. Martin, I have you, and we're moving forward. Okay, so as I was just saying, I just want to give you a perspective on things. We're going to get through this. There's an interesting quote I read from Friedrich, a priest who died, a Roman Catholic priest who died during the Holocaust. He goes, "It is the first day because it has never been before, and the last day because it will never be again. Be alive if you can all through this day today of your life. What's to be done? Question mark. What's to be done? Question mark. Follow your feet, put on the coffee, start the orange juice, the bacon, the toast, then go wake up your children and your spouse. Think about the work of your hands, live in the needs of the day." So with that being said, my takeaways from the past, when we had a recession before, it rolled my business into very much a work-from-home business. So in a sense, for us, it's been about business continuation. Nothing has changed. There are four of us who work from California, another one from Illinois, another one from Mexico, and then another from New York. So in this respect, it has not changed for us. One of the things that what I have done for my own business, and this is probably one of the more important things I can suggest to people, is I don't think you should do anything rash. I know we're trying to balance what we're going to do in the future with what we need to do today. And I know that one of the big things that people are asking is, what are we going to do with our employees? So for my own part, and just quickly mention what I've done, I was in the midst of signing a lease on a property, which I decided not to do. I didn't cancel anything, I just didn't proceed with something. So I did not make a commitment that I was able to avoid. I have also drawn down lines of credit that are low-cost funds. Super important thing I can tell you is the time to borrow money is not when you need it. Banks don't like to lend money to people who need money. Sadly, they like to lend money to people who don't need it. So before you need it, borrow it. And, it's all about cost of funds. So I have done that myself just to have it because, I don't know what's going to happen. Nobody's being laid off at the moment. We're going to be keenly aware and kind of watching things. One of the tough things that I did do, and I say it was tough, although it shouldn't have been, was to actually call a number of clients and see where they're at with their searches. And as many of you know, I am in the retained search business. I did have one client put 2 searches on hold. This client is in the hospitality design business. Specifically dealing with clubs and resorts, things related to health, interestingly enough. And yet, I had another client who specifically does country clubs and, that have private clubs, and they said they are beyond busy and that their search is still on. I have a residential architect who's still continuing. I have a residential designer who's still continuing. So it's not all or nothing. But, it was scary to make the phone call because what I didn't want to hear was that they were going to put things on hold. So, but that being said, you pick up the phone, you check in with your clients and see where they're at. emotionally and physically, and what they want, and just be prepared that some will want to continue. Maybe the majority will want to continue. So that was one of the things that I did that was, I think, proved very fruitful. One of the things I know Martin and I were talking about was, some people have talked about, well, gee, should they not pay their rent? Should they not pay a mortgage? No, start paying these, pay the things until you actually have a true cash problem. And since this is, just begun, we're hopefully not quite there yet. And by the way, if you have, some specific needs and you want to talk about that offline, we can certainly do that as well. I know that I just was reading a note earlier, and people are talking about staffing needs. So I want to just quickly mention that. Unless you know for fact that you have lost projects, I don't think I would be laying anybody off. I mean, the reality is that it may not happen, because think about it. There are plenty of people who are going to lose money, but we're catering to the wealthy for the most part. And while there are people in the market who have lost money because the market has gone down, they only lost money if they sold. And there's also other stocks that have gone up. So there are still people that are going to be out there with money. And I think one of the really important things to remember is that, this too will pass. I mean, I just read that Starbucks has reopened 90% of its stores in China. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And all of these people who are now out there and staying home because of quarantines, they're going to want to get right back out again and start spending their money, whether it's at restaurants, the dry cleaners, all the things they need to do. And frankly, it's the little businesses like that I'm really worried about. And the last thing I'm going to say before I ask Martin to jump in with what's going on in his business is, it's the people that I worry about are the ones who are maybe off the grid. My housekeeper who comes weekly, she said that all of her clients in my building had canceled, and I was the only one that hadn't. So, I still want things to be clean, and I still have them come in, and I even gave them extra money because I realized that they're going to be short. And, I have resources, not everyone does. So I'm trying to be supportive of people who I think don't have things. I'm tipping more. I'm doing little stuff like that. So on that note, Martin, what's going on in your business?
Great advice, by the way.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. So I have 20-odd staff in my LA office. And as I'm sure you all know, since last night, we are now all closed down until the 19th or 20th of April. So we now have another month of being closed on top of the week that we've just got through. Now, obviously, we are working remotely. Up until yesterday, several of my staff were still actually attending some meetings with clients, wearing masks and things. And my PA was going in and out of my office to check on mail and that kind of stuff. But we are now completely restricted from doing that here. So the one thing that we found is that we are, like everybody else, I'm sure, we're conducting a first thing in the morning phone call with my entire team, which I feel is actually kind of holding up the morale of everybody, because, we list through all of our jobs and we list through what everybody's done for that particular job that day, or what needs to be done, during the course of this day. And so it's been kind of good because people have heard, what the jobs we've got going on and what's still happening. And we've been arranging, conference calls and meeting calls with the clients, with the contractors, with our vendors, etc. So, we are still going at the moment at full pace as we can. Now, I have done a few kind of intermediate cuts, knowing that now we have our office closed for the next 5 or 6 weeks. I have told our commercial cleaning staff to hold off going in, which kind of cuts that slight overhead for us. I have a shop, a small atelier under my offices, so we closed that, and we've now, the 2 staff from there, I've actually put them on a retainer hold. So, in fact, if they want to, they can go and file for unemployment up until we reopen. So I've actually looked at cutting back a few people that make sense because we literally can't possibly work with them. I mean, obviously my shop is closed, nobody can go into the shop, and our offices are closed. So we've made a few little cutbacks. The main thing that I'm going to do today, actually, and I was going to do it yesterday, but we actually had a busy day yesterday, is I'm going to reach out to my landlord and ask my landlord if he'll consider lowering my rent for next month, just to help out with with the overheads. And I think it's a really good idea to reach out to all of your landlords, unless you're on the buildings, of course, but to reach out to your landlords and say to them, listen, we're closed, we can't use the building. This is going to be a tough month or so for us. Can you help me out? Can you halve the rent or give me a bit of a discount on the rent? So, I mean, listen, it's worth a try. If they say no, they say no. But if they say yes, I've been in my current spot for 10 years and paid my rent every day on time. So I'm hoping that the guy will give us a little break moving forward. One thing I also did yesterday, which I have a private business banker at Bank of America, and I had a really great call with her, actually, where we discussed, I have a line of credit that I don't usually use, but she said to me, rather than depleting the funds in your account, why don't you use your line of credit and work with that? I think the rate is 2.75, I believe, for the line of credit at the moment. So it's really not very high. And just to know that there's that cushion there is a really wonderful thing. They are, about to offer a bunch of incentives to people. I think for the banks are coming up with all sorts of different offers for small business loans. And I think it's really important that if you guys have a private banker or have access to somebody at your bank, it's worth calling them and asking them, what are the incentives? What is out there for us as small business owners? What can we do to help ourselves borrow some money, know that we have a cushion there if we need it? Because as Lloyd said, I think it's a mistake to start firing your staff if you really don't need to. Apart from the fact that it's such a difficult process to find the right staff and to find the right people that gel with you and work well within your company. So to lose them is an awful thing. And when this all gears back up in a couple of months, we're going to be struggling to find the right people again. So if we can keep everybody we have, I think that's a fantastic thing.
Martin, I just want to chime in two quick things. I agree with you, and I think I think we're going to be seeing lots of fallout for many, many months, but I do think from a business continuation perspective, I think we're going to be moving forward much more quickly than that, because the reality is design business or projects, things that are in the pipeline, are still going to move forward. And I also wanted to mention that one other thing that I'm doing, and I haven't completed the process, so I cannot be too specific, but I can also tell you that FEMA has now added the COVID virus as one of the disasters, and I'm actually going to apply for, or I'm in the process of filling out an application for an SBA loan, the Small Business Administration-backed loan, because those tend to be very low interest rates as well. So in one of the criteria that you're able to select is loss of revenue. So it doesn't have to be damaged real estate or whatever it is, but it could be. And once again, I'm going to take every precaution, and I would rather have cheap cost of funds available to me than not. So there you have it.
There's a thing called, obviously, the SBA, which is the Small Business Administration. They're offering the designated states low-interest federal disaster loans to use for working capital, specifically for small businesses. And those loans can be used to pay fixed debt, payroll, accounts payable, and other bills that we have because of the disaster's impact. And so the interest rate on that is 2.75, I believe. So that's really pretty good. I spoke to my personal banker, Angela Meadows, over there at Bank of America, and she actually said that I could forward her information to people that wanted to know more about it because, as we know always, knowledge is power, and knowledge about our finances is really powerful right now.
100% agree. Hey, Martin, I'm going to ask, since we're the West Coast boys, I'm going to ask my dear friend Jamie Drake, who I know is online, also with his business partner Caleb Anderson. Let's see if I can unmute Jamie here. Jamie, are you there?
I am, and I unmuted too.
Okay. Well, can you? Is there anything? Can you tell us what you and Caleb are up to?
Well, first of all, we're not next to each other. We are remotely apart, each from our own residence. We assessed the situation last week and did what you didn't recommend, which is we did reduce our staff on Monday. We had we furloughed 3 employees, and we did payroll rollbacks with the remaining staff. So we have taken a proactive situation, again, to try and manage finance as best as possible and conserve cash.
Fair enough. And could you, for the benefit of the audience, can you tell us how many people you had on staff before you furloughed 3 people?
12.
Okay, you were at 12. Okay, fine. So just give perspective on size. Okay.
And we
well, listen.
Jamie, can I?
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, when you said that you did rollbacks on their salaries, were people upset about that, or were they understanding with that?
Nobody expressed their upset. They were understanding. Of course, I'm sure they were upset, and they were impactful rollbacks. It was not a small rollback, but I think they also see the reality out there, and they are understood that we were making these tough decisions to keep our brand alive and afloat, and to keep everybody as safe as possible. So the reason we did the furloughs was to keep them on our health insurance vaguely indefinitely. And the furlough, we share the cost of health insurance with the employees. We don't do 100%, but for now, we pick up the entire thing, and if they are, if and when they're brought back to work, the amount, their share would be due, but if they aren't brought back to work, then they do not owe that.
Oh, interesting.
Well, that's very clever and very nice, very smart.
Tried.
Absolutely. Now, and just maybe last question, if you don't mind me asking, I'm just kind of curious. You've obviously been very proactive, and by the way, and I want to preface this with what works for Jamie, Martin, or myself. It doesn't necessarily work for everyone else. I mean, I think each of us, at the end of the day, each of us has to make decisions that are germane to our business. That this is just meant to give you as much information as possible. Did you actually have any projects put on hold, or were you just being proactive and anticipating? I know we've been through this before.
We have one project. Yes, I've been through various things in the 42 years now I've been in business. We have one client who called and said, we really can't afford your construction administration services, so we're not going to have you do them anymore. But they didn't quite understand and put together that we've already expended an enormous amount of time in advance of that, and construction has only just now begun. So now is our time to actually make the money for the efforts we had already put out, and the hours and the time. And they understood that. They did say when they prefaced it with, and I know we have a contract, and our contract states they can't use our drawings to finish the project even. and we're not going to invoke that, but we're having a discussion with the husband and the wife over the weekend to discuss. I told them that I would review the situation and that Caleb and I would look at it, and we did an analysis, and they owe us hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Wow. Not insignificant.
No, not an insignificant amount at all.
Okay, well, Jamie, very much appreciated. I'm going to open this up to questions. And by the way, because of the clicking back sound, I'm just going to unmute everybody. And if somebody wants to jump in with a question, ask it quickly, and then we'll remute. And if you want Jamie or myself or Martin specifically to speak, just to address it, please let me know. So
unmuted.
Any questions?
I have one question. Are you putting any of your marketing for new business on hold during this, or are you continuing to market?
What a great question. Hold on a second.
Muted.
Okay, Martin, do you want to tackle that first?
Well, I couldn't hear it because there was a noise.
Yes, and of course. The question is, are you putting any new business marketing on hold? And yes, I can tell you for myself. I'm definitely not. Those calls or reminders that popped up for that called or popped up to do. I'm not making that outreach. What about you, Martin?
Well, I've got PR-wise, I have a European PR and I have an American PR. And so my European PR was put on hold. And my American PR, we're going to work through the month, and then we're going to see what the next month is bringing. But basically, I don't know if anybody's going to be running around trying to publish stories right now, but the great thing for all of us to do, which is actually free, is to use your Instagram and your Pinterest and all of those things to self-promote and use as your marketing tool right now. I mean, more than ever, people are sitting at home looking at Instagram and all of those things. So for us, the idea of keeping the interest going and keeping people engaged and giving people pretty things to look at and things that will inspire them and things that maybe will bring them back to us once this is all over and done with, or bring us new clients. For me, I'm really going to, put a lot of our efforts into social, into doing, into really concentrating more on those things. I mean, for instance, I saw that my Instagram went up 2,000 followers yesterday. Wow. So, there's a lot of engagement happening. And for all of us, I think it's kind of important to think of that, know that, and use that as your tool right now. So maybe that our regular efforts at promotion and PR are not probably as useful, but certainly all the social things that are literally at our fingertips are what we should all be concentrating on right now.
Wonderful. Jamie, anything different to add?
We did cease our PR consultant for the time being, but we are planning on going ahead with the costs associated with putting together the material for the new book we're working on. So we are going to continue to try and photograph the project, etc., to move towards a pub date.
Excellent. And then, what did Jamie? And maybe because I know you're involved. And with, for instance, with something like Kips Bay,
yes.
What happens to the designers that are involved, and money they've invested? Where does all that fall out? I'm kind of curious about that.
So with the Kips Bay Show House, which I co-chair with Alexa Hampton, and the Kips Bay President's Dinner, which I co-chair with Bunny Williams, we have postponed both of them. We hope that they will both get rescheduled, but clearly we have no idea when. First and foremost, it's a horrible loss for the Kips Bay Boys and Girls Club, which provides after-school programs for 10,000 plus children in the poorest areas of the Bronx. And between the two events, it's almost $2 million a year that we raise for their budget. So it's a huge impact to their programs. We had selected the designers for this year's show house, but had not announced them officially. And so none of them actually had any out-of-pocket at all. And so hopefully we will have a list of designers who will be interested still and able still to go forward with it when we have a new house. And with the dinner, there many companies and individuals had already made their commitments and paid them in advance. And so we are hoping that they will keep that in the pockets of Kids Today for the time being.
That's great. And I know the San Francisco Decorator Showcase, for which I'm a patron, has been postponed as well. So, obviously money we paid in advance for tickets we're leaving. And frankly, one of the things that I'm thinking of doing is the San Francisco Decorator Showcase. The opening was the end of, I think, the 24th of April, and I was going to also be hosting a dinner. And obviously that's a month away, and I think a lot can change. So I haven't canceled my plane ticket to San Francisco because one of the things I'm thinking of doing is just flying up and still hosting the dinner, or maybe a lunch now, with my clients and people that I had already invited. Because at the end of the day, I mean, we're not going to be sequestered forever, and we do need to move on. And people need to eat, and we need to socialize. So from a business development perspective, I'm leaning very heavily in, and I hope to be able to still complete that trip and be a host, even though it may not be, in conjunction with the Decorator Showcase. So that's something I'm going to do on my end. Real quick, I'm going to unmute. I notice I have my dear friend Julia Malloy, who's in Portland, Oregon. Julia, you are a wonderful business manager. Is there anything different that you would like to add to this conversation?
Well, first of all, you guys are a great example of being proactive and looking at the whole situation in kind of a longer, broad stroke perspective. Because you have so many years in business, you really are modeling a really great way of handling it. You're not freaking out. You're not being reactive, but you are being smart about it and strategic. So it's really nice to hear that. In terms of adding things, the thoughts that I had, all of this is really good. But in terms of the staffing, and, we've got Martin on one hand who hasn't let anyone go yet, and Jamie who has. Again, you've got East Coast and West Coast. I think things are a little bit more palpable in New York. I know my clients in New York are feeling it a little bit more. I think because it tends to be financial, headquarters of the country and even the world in certain aspects. So, you've got a lot of financial, money over there, and people are, kind of hunkering down. But in terms of the strategy and navigating those choices associated with letting go staff or keeping them on to the conversations I'm having on the daily with my clients and people in my tribe, I guess. And I hope to have an opportunity to talk more about those numbers and how to gauge for your own business when it makes sense. And, I think Jamie's approach to doing the furloughs and the payroll cutbacks is something that everyone should be looking at for their own staff, because that's a really great approach to retaining as much talent and planning for things to rev up again without letting go of all of your talent pool and having to start from scratch when things go full throttle again. And I think looking at the projects that you have that haven't gone on hold, gauging that, I think this last week for most people has been like, who's on hold, who's not, what are we actually able to move forward with, and kind of figuring out how much work you actually have going on right now. And assessing whether you are going to be able to keep your design staff, let's just say, at least 50% billable time. Because then they end up being, a tiny bit cash positive. They're not making your company as much as the kind of standard 70% or more billable time. But at 50%, you're still doing all right. So I would start calculating all the hours and the timeline and figuring out if your staff, if all of them are going to be able to be at least 50% billable time. And if that answer is no, then you need to look at how to move some of those resources around and take an approach maybe that Jamie has, where you've got people on furlough, you increase their insurance pay-in, which I think is super gracious and just a great way to go about that. And if you do have plenty of work,
let me interrupt you there, Julia. Julia, let me interrupt you just because I think you touched on something, and I think you and I will be doing a call next week. Julia and I will be hosting a call on Monday geared towards employees, because I realize that I'm gearing this to business owners, but I realize employees have a lot of questions too. So Julie and I are going to do that. I think we will also, it sounds like we need to come back. You hit something very important with the billable hours. So I think we should take that offline and then come back with some thoughts and ideas and share that with the group. Also, just in fairness to a lot of people who are online, I'm going to unmute for a moment to take another question, and then I'm going to remute. So give me a second here. Are there any questions?
Unmuted. I have a question. I'm in Palm Beach. Yes, thank you. I'm in Palm Beach, Highlight, and I have a small retail shop. I would say at least 50% of the business owners here with small shops, whether it's clothing or home goods, have issued a statement, and they're very gracious, lovely statements. We care for you. We care for our staff. Out of safety to everyone, we decided to close, but we're still available for, behind the scenes selling, whether it's FaceTime or whatnot. I have not closed yet. We're finding people walking by and liking to come in, but I don't want to be perceived as greedy or anything. I also have a design business. I'm curious to know if any of you have issued formal statements through MailChimp or something like that, and what your message has been.
Well, listen, I'm going to mute you, and I'm going to let Martin tackle that first, because he has a shop.
Muted.
Martin?
Yeah, hi. So, yes, we actually closed our shop down last Friday, and then we put a notice up in the window just telling our clients that obviously for my staff and everybody in general safety that we were closing, but that if anybody needed anything in particular, we would open by appointment. Which now, by the way, we're not allowed to do that in the state of California, so we wouldn't be able to open anyway. But we also have offered to do virtual tours of the store, where we will go in and film the store and kind of put that up online for people to see things, look at things closer if they saw something they liked from First Dibs or Cherish or whatever. I'm happy to go to video conference with them, or one of the staff is, to show them what the item is at a closer visual to maybe open the sale place. And then literally we have sent out to our clients, we just sent out an email saying, that we were closing the office, but that we were all going to be working from home and that everybody is engaged, and that we would like to have at least once a week conference calls with the clients, just to assure them what was happening and to follow up on what we were doing for their particular projects. So just kind of trying to reassure everybody that we are working full speed with everyone.
Let me ask, Martin, would you opine real just quick, because I think that she asked a very interesting, and albeit it's a question that provides some judgment to it. Is it greedy to keep a store open, or do we think it's let's say perception? Is it greedy for one to stay in business? Because I say that because I had a friend who's a showroom owner in Los Angeles who really doesn't get a lot of walk-in traffic, and yet one of his employees was saying, "Well, we should be shut. We should be closed. We shouldn't even be here." What do you think? What do you think perception might be?
I think that different places obviously have got different rules in place now. So, however, if I thought that it was going to be safe for people, we would have kept our store open, because I had been paying their wages and I didn't want to let anybody go. But the reality is that it is dangerous, that we do have to really look after ourselves and our staff. I, by the way, have had 3 friends go down with the virus today.
Oh my gosh.
1 in New York and 2 here in LA. And I have 5 people in London, 2 of which are seriously ill. And then we have 1 mutual friend in Los Angeles who is actually on a respirator in a coma right now at our local hospital. So this thing is super, super serious. So the reality of keeping stores open and having people coming in and out, I think that you are endangering yourselves as well as the clients. And I honestly believe that everybody should shut down at least for the next couple of weeks until we can really understand what is happening.
What wonderful advice. I know, and if somebody, I'm going to unmute again because I want to take another question. That was a great question, and it is also possible once you're muted to unmute. So let's.
Unmuted.
Another question.
I have a question. This is Elaine.
Go for it.
What do you think? How realistic is it to actually be placing orders and expecting them to be delivered? That's something we're wondering if we could be spending time even shopping at this point, or if that's something that we could just stop doing altogether.
That's great. Would Sarah Kravitz, would you be willing to address that?
Can you hear me?
No response. Yeah. Are you there? Is that Sarah?
It's Sarah. I'm actually going to let my brother is on the call as well, and I'm actually going to let him address that because he works on an operations side.
Okay, give me just a second. I'm gonna unmute you. I'll be right with you to answer this question. Hold on, please.
Muted.
Looking. Hold on. Don't go anywhere. I'm just trying to. We have the feedback loop here. Okay. Hopefully this is the right one. Okay. Are you there, Sarah? Kravitz? Let's see. Let me try another number if I can help. Oh, here we go. Let's see. Maybe that's it.
Can you hear me?
Okay, there we go. Go for it. We can hear you.
This is Sandra Kravitz. Yeah, in terms of vendors, I mean, I can only speak for us. I can't speak for all of the other vendors, all of the other product types. We're still open. We're taking orders. We have stock, and we're able to ship. It's hard to speak for what will happen in the next month to 2 months. The federal government could say that everyone is quarantined, or all of the states could just institute quarantine. So it's tough to say with any certainty. Every day changes. So it's tough to say with any certainty what will happen in the next month, 2 months, 3 months. But for the time being, we are taking orders. We have sellers and showrooms. A lot of them are closed, or they're working from home, so they're available to help with any requests. And we have road sellers still available to help, as well as corporate customer service. So we're still open. Everyone is pretty much working from home, other than in our facility where we actually ship the orders. But for the time being, we are shipping. We are in business. So until the federal government says we're quarantining everyone, or the states change their policies, we're still open and available to ship.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. And I think it's really important, and thank you, Martin, for sharing. It's very unnerving to hear what's happened to your friends, but you're right, this is very real. And I think it's also important that we remember that whatever happens and however messy it gets the next few weeks, we will get on the tail end of this before long. And that there's going to be interruptions, but it's not like World War II or where things went on for years and years. We're gonna get on the other end of this, before long. Real quick.
Yeah, and you know what, Lloyd, I was going to say is that we actually, on my own fabric business that we run here in LA, we've had 7 orders come in this week, all of which were shipped out yesterday. So people are still ordering stuff from the showrooms, and we ourselves have been ordering things. We've been ordering furniture. We've ordered 2 chandeliers from Italy. We have had clients approving things. We had clients send money this week for like 20 different things that were on a proposal for their house. So yes, people are still ordering. People are still moving forward. And the one thing to remember that even as I've been stuck at home this week, we've actually managed to get quite a few things done. I've almost got more things done than I would have done if I'd been at the office. With all
Are you talking about like polishing your silver?
No, but I've been able to concentrate on some design. I've managed to get to a couple of things that doing a bunch of research for different furniture styles and shapes, and putting together various boards. I've actually done things that I hadn't necessarily been able to do whilst I was at the office, where we've just been so busy at the office. So this can also be a really constructive time for all of us to kind of get things to move our projects along, or at least get all of our ducks in a row, so that when this is over, we can, fire away and get everything moving really fast.
That's wonderful advice. The question came from Elaine Maltzman, who's been running Timothy Corrigan's empire for many, many years. Elaine, is there anything different you'd like to add to this?
No, other than I would say I'm running his empire. Thank you for that.
Trying to build you up.
Yeah, we're just really trying to figure this out and figure out how to go forward and really, trying to anticipate how the impact of this. So we don't really have the answers ourselves. So that's why I'm on this call.
Right, exactly. Well, we'll get some more answers. Okay, we have 4 minutes, and I'm going to take one more question.
Unmuted.
Anybody have a question?
I have a question about
Yes.
discounting fees or commission.
Ooh, that's really, really good. Hold on a second. I'm going to repeat it. Don't go anywhere.
Muted.
Okay, Martin, take that one. Are we going to do discounting fees or commissions at this point?
We have a business to run, and we need the money more than ever now to keep it going. So I don't necessarily think that I'm going to start offering bargain basement. You know what I mean?
So I'm not going to start seeing your products at Target?
No, you know what I mean? We've all worked so many years in this business to get to where we are, to be able to have the fee basis that we have. That, why would we get rid of that now when you kind of need it more than ever? I mean, the problem that's going to happen probably now, if this goes on for too long, will be the same kind of thing that happened in 2008, where a lot of the smaller design businesses, the kind of, smaller 2-3 people interior design businesses closed down because they couldn't keep going, and it's only the bigger companies or the more established of us that managed to keep going, and that's because we had loyal clients and clients with money, and that were able to kind of keep it moving, and because they were able to pay us, we were able to pay everybody else, and we were able to keep, buying from Krabbit and buying from wherever the hell we're going to buy from. So the reality is that if you start doing a free-fall discount bargain basement situation, people are going to end up working for nothing, and the client's going to expect it for nothing, and it's just going to really damage everybody all the way around in the industry.
Agree. I agree. Jamie, do you have any different thoughts on that?
Well, I would keep an open mind. I think that new clients coming on, probably some might use that as a club, and we have a business to keep going to, and I may look at it as a different way.
I like it. Okay, listen, we have one more comment, and I think this is, and he doesn't know I'm doing this, but we do have my a dear friend Jeffrey Caldwell with Architectural Digest, who just texted me a question or a response to the retail store opening question, and I'd like him to share the feedback. And then, Jeffrey, you're gonna end it by telling us anything you want to suggest from a media perspective, and obviously realizing you're on the publishing side.
Oh gosh,
Jeff, you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me? I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah. No, I can. You're unmuted. What were you sharing about the Palm Beach shop store?
Oh, yeah. It was just in response to that question. I've seen a number of retail store owners and showroom owners using Instagram stories very effectively in highlighting new arrivals to their store, talking about what they are, where they came from. And I think the concept there is when people can't come into your store, take the store to them. So if you're able to utilize your social media channels to help promote what is out there or what is in your store that people can purchase, and then there's no human interaction. It's just merely sending that to their home. So I just, one store in particular that does that really nicely here in New York is KRB NYC. I don't know if you follow her, Kate Reinstein-Brodsky, but if you follow KRB NYC, she does a nice job of taking you through her store somewhat on a regular basis. And she was doing this before COVID. So maybe just an idea for you all as you're trying to, get everything out there and keep business running as close to usual as possible.
Well, appreciate that. And by the way, Jeff, Martin said something that didn't agree with, and I would like your perspective on it, and I'm not putting you on the middle between me and Martin, because Martin's going to win, but Martin said that magazines are not going to be out running around trying to publish things and do whatever, and the first thing that popped to my mind was, well, this is, magazines are such long lead times, so will there really be an interruption, or would we even see any kind of interruption in something like that?
I'm certainly not at liberty to discuss any of that, or have the sort of knowledge to comment on that. What I would say is, and I will only repeat what Amy Astley mentioned on Instagram, is that we're really, I think the focus of Architectural Digest during these times is to really provide some inspiration, some looks into sort of fantasy, and sort of take people's mind maybe away from CNN or the MSNBC or whatever sort of news that you're watching. So I think that our editors are trying to be very responsive to what's going on, but also provide a bit of fantasy in this sort of state that we find ourselves. So that's what I would say, just that I've heard that already iterated before.
Yeah, and honestly, Lloyd, I wasn't saying that magazines are not going to be doing that. What I basically was saying is that, they're not going to be able to hire photographers and go around and shoot new projects for a while because everybody's kind of grounded. You can't get on a plane, you can't do anything. So I'm sure that the magazines, very much like Instagram, are making people feel happy with pretty images. And, if it comes down to it and things really are bad for a few more months, I'm sure that they can start to pull on some of the fantastic historical stories and republish those, which there's so much inspiration from those things anyway.
I bet firms like you and Jamie have 10 projects in the pipeline that they could start pulling from. So I don't think they're going to be at a loss for that. Okay, I'm going to just we're going to close this, and I just want to reiterate a few things, and then I'm going to ask for quick final comments from Martin and Jamie. There will be, if it all goes well, there will be an audio recording from this, which will be made available to everybody as a download. I know that there are a lot of questions, and I guess as Elaine aptly pointed out, we're just trying to figure this out as we go. So if anyone has a specific question they'd like answered, please email it to me, and I will work on getting an answer. There will be 2 more calls. There will be more, actually, many calls coming. I think I'm going to be doing these daily starting next week to address things. But on Monday, both Julia Malloy and I are going to have a call specifically addressed to employees and candidates or people who are in the job market, because I'm sure they have very, very different needs. And then I'm going to, on Tuesday, I'm going to have one for showroom owners and retail as well, because there's going to be very specific questions around that and the supplier chain and all that. So we'll try to address that as well. So 11 a.m. Pacific time, same phone number, nothing's changed. Okay, Martin, any final comments? Anything you want to say?
Live, love, and decorate.
Damn right, I love it. Jamie Drake.
I think we're in for a long, rocky road ahead, and got to be proactive as best as possible. On the negative side, we have seen things, come to a halt or not move forward. On the other hand, in the past 10 days, we have had new client inquiries, including one this week. So I think it's
there is a silver lining.
yeah, if they sign.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Okay, well, no discounting of fees. They got to pay you what your 41 years are worth, which is a whole heck of a lot. Okay, so well, listen. My best to everybody. I'm grateful for your time. We had actually 69 people join today, and more started coming on later. So that was very heartening, and I'm glad that people were able to participate. Thank you to Elaine. Thank you to Jeffrey. Thank you for the questions we had. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, and at the end of the day, go out and have a walk in the fresh air. Okay, Lloyd Princeton, bidding you all adieu. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.